We need to know the things we have to maybe fix in our businesses and all of that. But we also need to figure out how do we become the person who does those things, right? Who runs that kind of business.
Hello and welcome to the most impromptu episode of Richer Retailer ever to date. It probably won't be the last, as my team knows. I'm here with Cecilia Kautzman, rock our support for our COO and our CMO, and she's amazing. Thank you so much for being part of our team, Cecilia.
Thank you for having me.
So wait till you hear what happened with us today. And I knew that I had to do a podcast to share it with you because it was so powerful to me. Something you hear all the time. You're like, yeah. No, I get it. No, you don't. I didn't either. So you'll understand. So we're out for a walk, going to the bakery. And what did you get from the bakery?
So I got a peanut butter oatmeal cookie and a raspberry crumble bar. It was delicious.
Lovely. I got a lovely gluten-free raspberry thumbprint with almond something around it. It was lovely too. And so after I talked about Cecilia, then we were on the walk, and then we're here because we just celebrated a fabulous 3 days with our masterminders and really digging into what they needed to do to be richer retailers in today's time. There's so much change going on, and so we dug into what's in plain sight, what opportunities are right in front of them. It was really powerful. So we took the executive team, decided to have a mini retreat after that where we could dig into some of the issues that we all work remote, but we wanted to be able to dig into some of the issues that marketing and some other things. So we're taking a moment and we're walking. And I said to them, you know how we have this goal to do $5 million in sales. First of all, let me tell you why we have that goal. Because every single dollar of that goal represents store owners like you, whose lives we are helping and supporting to become richer retailers in every sense of the word. And so I took that same mindset, being richer retailers, being richer business owners in every sense of the word. And I was saying to the team, so as a $5 million team, how do you see things in your life changing? How do you see the business changing? I'm just curious. What are you guys thinking? And it was great because we're just out walking. It's actually an incredible day here. And so we had a great time. And so what was one of the first things that came up for you?
First of all, I think it was great that we were having that conversation as a group because everybody else's responses would trigger ideas and things that came up. I think we all started thinking about what is it that we would have to do differently in our own roles and sort of what are the tasks that we're doing right now that we couldn't be the ones doing if we were a $5 million company because, we would be too busy doing these other things and how we can then shift the responsibilities within the team and what other external help that we might need to take some of those things off of our plate so that we can really then fulfill what we are all individually so good at.
Right. It was really powerful. It was powerful hearing Claire. Claire is our client care maven and our chief tech officer, really. It was fascinating to hear her talk about things that she had a cautionary tale. She said that I know that you're trying to take things off my plate, which is true. And so then I'm asking Cecilia to take things off her plate so she can do some of the things I'm doing. And so then she said, Cecilia, you're giving me those things and I'm not going to be able to support us to get to 5 million unless we can do something else with some of those responsibilities. And that was a really great, it was just honest. She wasn't complaining about what you'd given her.
Right. No, and I think that that's a really key thing to remember is that you can't keep doing, you have to think about what is it that you are doing that you are not best spending your time doing. Because where you could be thinking about higher level things and higher level thinking for your business, you can't do that if you're stuck doing some minutia things. And so who is it that is better to take those things off your plate so that you can then do what you're best at? I think that's a really key thing for any business to really consider.
And it's something that we talk about a lot. I always say that your to-do list has to change as you grow. If you have the exact same to-do list, the exact same list of responsibilities that you had a year ago, you're not growing. You have to change it. And the mistake that you make, that I know because everybody makes it, I made it too, is that you just take more on. You get another idea, so you just add it to your list. But that's not sustainable. As we talk about being richer retailers, it's about being rich in time too. And just putting more things on your plate isn't the answer. You have to figure out ways to take things off your plate. And so that's why you have to involve your team more. And so it was such a fascinating and eye-opening experience. We must have talked for, I don't know, 45 minutes because we talked as we walked to the bakery, and then we talked as we came back. And then we sat down and we ate the baked goods and had a conversation with Paul, who is my beloved, and he's our CFO. He does so much stuff in the business. And he also had some ideas, and it was so powerful. And at the end of it, what was so cool is Cecilia says, so Cecilia is a yoga queen. That's right. Go ahead, tell them. How many days in a row have you been doing Adrian's yoga?
Oh, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not sure what day I'm on, but I'm on a year of daily yoga.
Daily yoga, no matter what, she commits to it. She follows through on it. No matter what, she does yoga with Adrian. And so often, I love yoga too. So often when we're together, so we're finishing our breakfast, and she said, "Hey, do you want to do yoga now?" And I said, "Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah." So then we went outside, and it's like I said, it's a beautiful day. So we're doing yoga outside, overlooking the lake, and it just felt so richer. It felt so rich. And we started talking about how we teach this. Why don't you tell them how it is we describe this? Because you're the one who really articulated it. Like, it's one of those things that I knew about, that I wanted to feel richer and be richer, but what does that mean exactly?
Yeah, well, and I think that when you are picturing, like when you have a goal of reaching a higher sales number or growing your business, it's sort of like you are putting yourself, you have to change your mindset. And I know that on the podcast, we give some great, strategic and tactical tips and advice of what someone can do to become a milli store, right? To reach that $1 million mark or beyond, and I think the problem is sometimes that if we just keep doing without really changing the mindset of who we think we are, then all of that work that we're doing is going to sort of end up just not reaching those results that we want. We're going to self correct ourselves back to whatever our self image is. So if you don't feel like you are a millie right now because your store doesn't do $1 million in sales, for example, then even if you try to do all these tips of changing some of these things, your marketing and your finances and all of the things, you are still going to U-turn back to who you believe that you are. And so what was so perfect with us, going out on this beautiful deck, we have a beautiful view here of Lake Michigan. And we said, if we were a $5 million company, these are the kind of things we would be doing. We would be having a team retreat where we take care of our minds, we take care of our bodies, we take care of the business. And that's just what we would do. And it just the up levels the way that we think about ourselves. And it's sort of putting ourselves into that mindset of someone who is already there, who's already hit that $5 million mark. And I think that that's what we talk about all the time. We do the Best Year Yet Planning Palooza for our clients every January. And we talk about how we reach our goals. We do need to know what to do. We need to know the things we have to maybe fix in our businesses and all of that. But we also need to figure out how do we become the person who does those things, right? Who runs that kind of business formula. Which means that we think that to have something, so if that's a $1 million store, if it's a $5 million business, we have to do all of these things that someone would do to get there, right? Once we do all those things, then we will be the owner of a $1 million store, the owner of a $5 million business, right? And the problem with that is that when we keep focusing on doing without really focusing on the being, then again, like I said, our brains are just programmed to course correct, and we're going to start self-sabotaging in some way. Just doing the actions of, what we think we should be doing is not going to turn us into the person who is those things, right? So instead, what Tanya Lee recommends usually is that you flip that formula. And so you start with the be and then the do and then the have. And the reason that works is that you start thinking about, if our business was $5 million, how would that change who I am, what I'm doing, how I'm feeling, right? And that's when we start really getting into the why of our goals, right? Like, what is the purpose of what I'm doing? How does that change what I do and how I live, how I feel about things? And so, it could be something like, I would be less stressed because my finances would be so much better. Or I would be less stressed because I would have to work less. Because a $5 million company, we talked about the thing of having a 4-day work week, and so that feels great. Like when I think about that, if I picture us having a 4-day work week, I'm like, that feels great, right? It's like you work and you play and you have this happy balance. And so the key is then to think about how can you feel those things now?
Now. Well, and that's what was so powerful for me was being outside, doing this yoga practice, taking care of ourselves because moving your body and taking care of your body is so important. I love good food, good chocolate, good champagne, good workouts. I love all those things, right? And so we've been certainly doing all that. We've been checking off all those items on our list. But to sit outside and then to finish this, and so you have all your endorphins going, and we're just sort of laying there in savasana, and I just felt this is what I would be doing as a $5 million business owner. This is it right now. This is it. In the middle of a day on a Friday, I'm taking time to work out. And that's when I said to her, we have to talk about this right now. So literally we came in right away, hence no makeup, hence my Dell sweatshirt, a Low It's Me shirt, her lovely workout outfit. And we came in without any makeup and just to share this with you because it's something you hear all the time. You know this. You know, you've heard before to think to be the person that you want to be, and then you start doing things and then you have it. What I want you to know is that there's a couple of tips about what we did today that made it so different for me than before. And one of them was being aware of by talking about being this $5 million company and what it means we could do. Oh my goodness, we came up with ideas of things that we can change right now to move us closer to that goal right now. And listen, if you don't think that I've been thinking about this for a very long time all by myself, and I did not think of any of the things that we all came up with together. It was so powerful.
Yeah, because I think you are when you're just thinking on your own, you're kind of limited to whatever it is that you're experiencing, right? Whereas when you take it to the team and you allow them to kind of join in that vision with you, they will see and add things to it that you would never have thought of.
Mhm.
And I think that's why it's so important. And I think too, when we're talking about being that person, what does that really mean? Because you can say, well, I can't do all those things right now. I don't have those things, or I can't, do all the things that a $1 million store would do. And it's yes, that may be true that there are certain practical things that you can't do yet, but you can change the way that you're thinking, what you're telling yourself and your store. You can change how you're feeling about where you are. You can go from saying, I will never break this plateau that I'm at. I'm always going to be stuck at this number of sales or whatever. And then you can say, it is possible. I think that there could be a way that I could break through that plateau. Or I could be, or if you're thinking of yourself as a store owner who sort of has to do everything, right? Maybe you're by yourself in the store, maybe you have a small team. And so you feel like everything is on your shoulders. Well, as long as you think of yourself that way, you're going to keep doing all of the things.
Mhm.
And as long as you're doing all of those things, you're stuck working in the store instead of working on the store. But if you're thinking that I am the CEO of $1 million store, what does a $1 million CEO do? Right? They probably don't go and do all of the things on the floor of the store.
No, and the point is that you have to make a change. You know that you have to change your mindset about it. So how do you be that person? Because regardless of this amount of business you do, your payroll, when we start working with stores, we find that their payroll is usually higher than it should be. And they can't imagine, doing more with less. But this is how, no matter the size of your store, this is how you do it. You bring in someone to work for 4 hours for you, and let's say you pay them $15 an hour. So that's $60 you're paying them. And then you spend those 4 hours planning what $1 million store owner plan. What event does $1 million store owner do? You plan an event, a way to bring in 4 times the amount of money that you're paying that person for the 4 hours. And that's how you change things. But you can't think that I have the perfect team. And then that's why I can do what I can do. And then I'll be that $1 million store. It's not have, do, be. It's be that person. And then, so be that person and then do it. Spend those 4 hours doing something else. And that's then how you can have what it is your dream is.
And I think a really great way to sort of to exercise your brain around this and really think about your potential is I remember when you told me one time that if we were to 10x our revenue, what could we no longer do that we're currently doing? Or what would we have to do differently? And it's such a great exercise to do because it really does put you like picture your store being doing 10 times the business it's currently doing. There are so many things that would sort of obviously become really clear that you can't keep doing them the way that you're doing them. Like if we can't 10 times the workload that we currently have, right? And so how would we change things if the business was doing that much revenue? And, if we're thinking about traffic, if your website was getting that much traffic, if your store was getting that much traffic, how would that change how you do things? Because you could not keep doing what you are doing at, 400, 500, and $600,000 at 5 million, 6 million, right? You would have to change your processes. You would have to change your responsibilities.
Well, and also sometimes another way of thinking about it is thinking about having that many stores. You have one store. If you had 10 stores, what would be different if you had 10 stores?
Because don't you find, Kathy, that we tolerate a lot because we don't necessarily know how to do it differently or because we just don't want to put in the work of changing things or we just tolerate a status quo that we maybe aren't happy with. But if you were thinking, but if we were to quadruple our business, this wouldn't work anymore. Well, so then let's look at what can we do to change it now? And you might not be able to change it completely, but you can start making tweaks.
Absolutely.
You can stop tolerating some of those things that you are currently putting up with.
Because you deserve more. What you provide for your family, what you provide for your team, what you provide for big or small, and what you provide for your community is so important. And you deserve to hit those goals that you're dreaming of. And this is a few fast actions that you can take to get there. I laid down there and felt like I was a $5 million business owner. And there was a couple of key things we did today. So we always like to talk about a milli moment, right? So what would you say the milli moment was from today?
For sure, I think just allowing our minds to expand into the possibility because I often will get stuck sort of thinking in the box of how we currently do things.
I came up to her and I put my arm around her. I said, leave the box. It's all right. Leave the box.
And like you said, it's hard to do it by yourself when you're just thinking about all of the things that you know, but all you need is a couple of ideas from other people on your team. And then all of a sudden you realize that that's a possibility that I never even thought of. Right. But I would also challenge everybody to really think about what is it that your goal is? And then think about what would you feel like if you had that goal right now, today? Like, what would that feel like to you? Who would you think you would be if that goal was already a reality?
Oh, that's the connection then between the feeling and the being. I understand because often it's easier to feel first. Is that why?
Yeah, it's sort of like because we can very easily imagine what something would feel like if, our goals became reality, right? There's often relief in there. There's maybe joy, there's relaxation, like there's all these good feelings that we think we will have, but only once we get to that point, right? We think we have to have the thing in order to feel those things, but feelings are available to you anytime and they're really controlled by your thoughts, right? So when we think, okay, once I get my store to this level, I will feel whatever that is. So it could be energized, it could be happy, it could be abundant, or it could be
All those
things.
That's exactly how I felt. And you're right. I had those feelings and then I translated into I am a $5 million business owner. It was around the first time I had ever really embodied that. And it came because I put myself in a situation where I felt that. And also it came because I didn't do it alone, because I had the team. And that was that's for sure one thing I want you to take away with this. Don't do it yourself. I've tried to do this myself for so long and it doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. I am a type A, goal-driven, committed, disciplined individual. And it hasn't happened. It was so powerful doing it with the team and not doing it in some stuffy boardroom where we were all sitting around. I think I know there was incredible power in the fact that we were walking as we were talking. We were doing something else.
Well, and I also think that it's so powerful then to think if you're thinking, okay, you've identified your goal and you've identified the feeling that you'll have once you have reached that goal. Now you can look at, okay, how can I incorporate that right now, today, with what I currently have already. I don't want to put off feeling those good feelings
Right.
until I've reached my goal. I want to be able to feel some of that today. So what could I do today to feel some of that? And so that could just be do yoga on the deck. It could be going for a walk. It could be having some delicious chocolate or good baked goods, right?
Someone told me yesterday that they realized that if they had achieved what their dreams were, they wouldn't be wearing the underwear that they had. Isn't that so good?
That's a really good one.
She shared how I opened up the drawer. She said, and I pick out, so which is the least offensive of all of these? And she'd pick one out. And she decided no more. And she went and did research, what is the best ones? And then she bought the colors that she loved. And she did that. She said, why am I tolerating putting on? And it's the first piece of clothing you put on. So from the first piece of clothing I touch, I'm not feeling more than, I'm feeling less than.
Yeah.
From the very first one. I had totally forgotten because someone shared that with me too. And so went through the same thing. I changed my underwear. But then the mistake I made was that then I allowed that underwear to get old. I didn't get rid of the ones that had started to be less than. And I got so mad that I had allowed myself to make that mistake again. How could I make that mistake? So now what I'm committed to doing is to adding some regularly.
But that really explains that there's no amount of doing that will get you to where you're going if you're not fixing the being, right? So you needed to, like, if you were really feeling into and being that person who has upgraded underwear, then you would not let them just lapse, right? You would consistently be buying a new thing.
I see what you're saying. So I was completely self-sabotaging.
You were doing before you were being.
Right, right, right. And that's the difference. And that's why I was so excited to share this with you because today was different for me. The other thing is that I also know about feeling that feeling. So I know that feeling I had of laying on that yoga mat, feeling the sun on me. Ugh, just the breeze and everything. The breeze was so soft on my face, like it felt like a caress. It was amazing, the soft, gentle breeze. So what I have done, million is our goal, right? So I have set on my phone a timer to go off at 5:05 every day, PM, not AM. And I have this one praise song, praising the Lord for providing, praising the Lord for all the abundance that I see and that I get. And that will change for me now because I already did that actually. But now I can hear that and I can think of that time that I felt like I am that person.
Yeah. And I think it's such a common thing for business owners, and I think retails specifically. They're such creative people, and it can be really easy to fall into this, imposter syndrome trap of where you feel like, what do I know about running $1 million store? Like, I just kind of started this and it's just been happening. And it's not because I know all the things. And so the whole I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy of that kind of success.
Mhm.
Those are the kind of things that will often sabotage, even if you are doing some of the right things, right? Your brain will still keep pulling you back there. And so to find something that will bring you back into that moment of what that feels like to be empowered, to feel confident in what you're doing, and then just feeling into that for just a moment. And how does that change how you're thinking about yourself? And then how does it change the actions that you're taking?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing because we found that even within our mastermind, here's all these highly successful millies, and yet they sabotage themselves too. It was incredible. It was great having a conversation about that. It's fabulous being in a group of people where it's like this mind hive where everyone has the same goal and will support people. I mean, that you can say things. They could say how they were afraid. They can say that they felt like they were imposters and be supported. And that's so an incredible part of it. And if you're interested in getting more information about that, please reach out, join us. But you can't do it by yourself. You have to have someone else that can reflect back to you,
Yeah.
like Cecilia just did right now. I didn't even understand that right. That's why it didn't take before. Right. I had done the action, but I wasn't being the person. and you need other people in your life to help you do this. Don't do this alone. And of course, it goes without saying that we are here to help support you and make an impact. And please share this with your business bestie who you know thinks the same way that you do and hasn't quite achieved it. To anyone else that you think that this would help, please share it with them. And please leave a review. I'd love to hear how this resonated with you or how it didn't resonate with you. I really would love to hear either way. Please share and let us know. All right. Thank you so much for being here, Cecilia. Thanks so much. And so the words here are be, do, have. Be, do, have. BDH. Don't do it alone. Talk to your team. Be that person. Know that you are astonishingly fabulous and you are loved. Happy retailing.